A couple of weeks ago, we had a review of the TASCAM FR-AV4, which we are recording with right now, incidentally. And we're recording with the JZ Microphones V11, which is a large diaphragm condenser microphone, which we reviewed a couple of years ago. I'll put a link for the review down below, but I wanted to give you another set of samples, and answer the most common questions we got in the comments on the review video. We'll also have a link for the review video. If you haven't already seen that, I highly recommend you go take a look at that as well. This video is sponsored by me and Learn Light and Sound, where we have courses teaching you how to improve your lighting and sound for video. Link down below. Okay, what are these most common questions? First of all, first, full disclosure, TASCAM sent the FR-AV4 to me. It's on loan. I have to ship it back as soon as we're done, and they have not told me what to say. So these are my own opinions here. We're gonna have some opinions and some just telling you my experience with this. So first question, should I buy the FR-AV4, the TASCAM recorder, or should I buy a Zoom F6, or should I buy a Sound Devices MixPre, or should I buy a Zoom F8n Pro? Well, it really comes down to the features that are important to you, and they each have some features that the others don't have. So that's really what it comes down to. They all produce amazing audio quality. And in fact, to prove that point, I have made some new recordings with all three, Zoom F6, the Sound Devices MixPre, and the TASCAM FR-AV4. I've uploaded the 32-bit float WAV files to Google Drive. You can download them. I'll put a link for those down below. So you can go Pixel Peep, if that's what it's, I don't know what it's called with audio, but you can go listen to those. My assessment is, audio quality-wise, the preamplifiers on all three of them are very high quality. Are there differences? They're extraordinarily small differences. So all three capable of recording very high quality audio. And the Zoom F8n Pro, which basically has the same preamps as the F6. So all four of them, I guess, same. So what is the difference in terms of which one you should buy? It really, as it comes down to, in my mind, is the features. So first thing that the FR-AV4 has that none of the others have is a full-size HDMI 2.1 input and output. And what that allows you to do is, if you're recording on your camera and you're recording audio to your FR-AV4, you feed a HDMI cable out of your camera into the FR-AV4, and then an HDMI cable out of the FR-AV4 into an HDMI recorder, like an Atomos recorder or a Blackmagic Video Assist. What that does is it combines the high-quality audio from your audio recorder, your TASCAM FR-AV4, with the video from your camera, puts them together, and records them onto your Atomos or Blackmagic recorder. It just makes your workflow easier, if that is your workflow. So if that is your workflow, then the FR-AV4 is the only option of all these recorders that does that, and it does it well, up to 8K 30 frames per second. Somebody complained, whoa, they crippled the HDMI 2.1 because it should be able to handle up to 8K 60 frames per second. If you're recording 8K 60 frames per second, then this is not the recorder for you. I'm sorry, but that's the fact. So very interesting feature that the FR-AV4 has is the ability to wirelessly monitor the audio via a Bluetooth set of headphones, or in my case here, we're using the Apple AirPods Pro 3. So that's another great feature. If that's important to you, TASCAM FR-AV4 is the only one that has that option kind of integrated into the device itself. If you need more inputs and you want an NPF-style battery to power your mixer and you're not bothered by the very cramped sort of ergonomics of the physical controls on the Zoom F6, then the F6 is a fantastic recorder. Really, really good. Solid build, everything. If, on the other hand, you want auto mix, you want to be able to make backup copies of your audio files to a USB thumb drive. If you want NoiseAssist, which is essentially a real-time noise reduction system that's a little bit different than the noise gate in the FR-AV4. We'll talk more about that in just a moment. If you want to be able to send your recorder into the company that made it for repair, Sound Devices is the only one that offers that. So in those cases, you might want to look at the MixPre instead. So it just depends on what features are important to you, and hopefully that gives you some context. Also, in the original review, we talked about that at the end. We have a little bit more in depth there. Next question, why not just buy a Zoom F8n Pro? It's only $200 more, has twice the inputs. It has dual SD card slots, which none of these others that we've mentioned before have. Has balanced outputs. etc. It does not have an HDMI input or output. It doesn't have wireless monitoring. It doesn't have a 3.5 millimeter microphone input. It does not get service from Zoom once it's out of warranty. Zoom just doesn't have a repair arm for their business, as far as I'm aware. So it's a little bit different that way. So yeah, if you want to spend $200 more and those features are important to you, then the Zoom F8n Pro could be a great option as well. All right, next question. Is the TASCAM FR-AV4's price justified? Or in other words, is it priced too high? That is completely subjective. So that is up to you. If you are doing a workflow that I mentioned before, where HDMI combining of the audio and video is really important to you, wireless monitoring is important to you, the TASCAM is a great option, and I think it's worth every last of the $999 that they charge for it. But that's me. If those features are not important to you, then probably a Zoom F6 might be a better choice for you, and that's okay, and it's $300 less, so great. I'm not here to say you have to buy a TASCAM. I'm just here giving you my impressions from my perspective, how they work, so that's my answer there. All right, some other feature clarifications. Does TASCAM support polywave files and auto mix? Well, we answered the first one in the original video or the second one about auto mix. Out of the gate, it does not, but I just did get confirmation from TASCAM they are actively developing AutoMix that will be provided in a firmware update for the FR-AV4 shortly, sometime in 2026, it looks like. So that is fantastic news. So the FR-AV4 will also have that feature, just like the Zoom F6 and the F8n Pro do, and just like the MixPre does, except for the MixPre, it's an add-on plugin which has a price tied to it. So the MixPre is the most expensive of all of these. All right. What about polywave files? Yes, it supports polywave files, or you can record to mono files, or you can record to stereo files, however you want to do it. So a polywave, for those that aren't aware, is a wave file that has however many tracks you record in it, and all in one file. A stereo file, of course, has 2 tracks, and a mono file has a single track. You can do any of those. All right, next question. How does noise assist compare on the MixPre to the noise gate on the TASCAM? And what does the EQ sound like? Here's some samples. In this case, we have a filter here. Go ahead and turn that on to the high setting. There it is. Okay. Now on the TASCAM, we're going to go ahead and turn the noise gate on for this channel. Okay, noise gate is off currently. Now it's going to the low setting. There's the noise gate low setting. Here's the mid setting on the noise gate. And that kind of, you're hearing it flap a little bit. So if I just make the tiniest bit of noise. And then here is the high setting. This is the high setting for the noise gate. High setting for the noise gate. There we go. Okay, now we have the Sound Devices MixPre. See it right there. Let's turn our fan on to the high setting. There it is. Okay, now Noise Assist works a little differently. You get to choose how much attenuation you want to do of the noise. And here it is with 0 dB of attenuation. I'm going to increase it by 2 dB each time. There's 2 dB of attenuation on Noise Assist. 2 dB of attenuation. There's 4 dB of attenuation on Noise Assist. You can hear it kind of cutting in and out a little bit. I wouldn't generally go beyond this, but it can go up to minus 20. Here's minus 6 dB of Noise Assist. Minus 6 dB of Noise Assist. What you're listening for is, as I talk, how much of that is it letting through, or how is it affecting the dialogue overall? Here is 8 dB of Noise Assist. This is 8 dB of Noise Assist. And here is 10 dB, minus 10 dB on Noise Assist. This is where things get tough. Now, the best way to help a noise gate or to help noise assist is to work up close on the mic. Now, it changes the timbre, so it's a trade-off, but if you improve your signal to noise ratio, that can help noise assist some. So here's minus 12 again. Now we're at minus 14 dB of noise assist. Here's minus 16 dB of noise assist, minus 16. Here's minus 18 dB with noise assist. And here's minus 20 dB with noise assist. Normally, I'm going to drop it back down to minus 4. Here's minus 4 dB of noise assist. Yes, you're still hearing some noise, but it's not affecting the dialogue quite so much. Here's minus 2 dB of noise assist, and that's pretty clean from what I can tell. It's hard with your own voice to tell, but... And then here's no noise assist at all on the MixPre with noise assist plugin. Note, the noise assist plugin costs $300 per instance, meaning you can apply this to either one track or to the left or the right channel of your mix. To buy 2 instances and apply it to the left and right mix, that's $600. So this comes at a much steeper price. With the TASCAM noise gate, that's free. It comes with, well, it's not free. It comes with the FR-AV4. All right, we also have EQ built in on the FR-AV4. You can apply it per channel. And let's go ahead, right now it's off. We'll go ahead and turn it on. And this will be with a cut of 5 dB at 1.5 kilohertz. You should hear something for sure. Okay, here it is with the cut on at 1.5 kilohertz, minus 5 dB. Let's go ahead and boost the lows as well. We'll boost 4 dB at 400 hertz. Ooh, that's rough. Let's drop that down to about 125 hertz. That's plus 4 dB at 125 hertz. Here's the EQ off with no EQ. And here it is on with a boost of 4 dB at 125 hertz and a cut of 5 dB at 1.5 kilohertz. I would never do this, by the way. But this is just to give you a sense for what you can do. There's also a high, mids, and a high. Let's turn the high on. We'll boost it by 3 dB. This is a high shelf, it looks like. And we'll do that at maybe around 12 kilohertz. Yeah, that's at 12 kilohertz. This is with the EQ on. Let me go ahead and turn it off. Here's with the EQ off, no EQ. Here's with the EQ on. This has 3 things: a boost of 4 dB at 125 hertz, a cut of 5 dB at 1.5 kilohertz, and a high shelf boost of 3 dB at 12 kilohertz, just to give you a sense for how that sounds. And here it is with the EQ turned off again. Next question, what are the file management recording capabilities? Questions, first of all, about dual SD card recording. There is no dual SD card recording on any of these, except for you have to go up to the Zoom F8n Pro to get dual card slots to have that redundancy. The MixPre does have sort of it's not exactly the same thing, but it does have a thumb drive, USB-A port you can plug a thumb drive into, and as soon as you stop a recording, it will make a copy that you have on your SD card over to the thumb drive as well. So it's not the same as dual card slots, but it's not exactly the same. In other words, if the SD card fails in the MixPre, then you're not going to get the copy on the thumb drive either, or you're going to get a corrupted copy on the thumb drive. So that's the first thing. What about file management? I would encourage you to look at the manual online to see all the details. Go to section 9 of the manual. It has all the details about file management. First of all, the files can be named by date with custom text, or they can be numbered, whichever works best for your workflow. You can have 2 subfolders deep, so the total of 3. Beyond that, it can't recognize subfolders, so you can only organize down to that level. And the maximum total number of files and folders that can be recorded on a single SD card at any given time is 1,000. So there are some limitations there. Most of us are not going to run into any problems there. Even on a full production day, you're not going to do that many takes, most likely. So I don't see that as a problem, but just, some people had some questions about that. What's the practical point of the HDMI ports? I mentioned this earlier. If you want to be able to get the video feed from your camera, feed it into the TASCAM and then out from the Tascam into an Atomos or a Blackmagic Video Assist HDMI recorder, it combines the audio and video. That's all it does. And it goes up again to 8K 30 frames per second is the max frame rate that it can pass through. Next question is, how much latency is there with the Bluetooth monitoring? If you're using Bluetooth headphones and you have the AK-BT2 wireless module plugged into the FR-AV4, how much latency is there? Because I mentioned that there is latency. I did some testing, and first of all, there is a substantial amount of latency. I would guess at least 30 milliseconds, probably more. I don't see that as an issue if you're monitoring someone else that you're recording. If you're monitoring your own voice, that's going to be a little disorienting. So if you're planning to do wireless monitoring of yourself being recorded into the FR-AV4, then yeah, it's a problem. If you're not monitoring yourself, you're monitoring someone else, and you have Bluetooth headphones or earbuds that have pretty good isolating capabilities, I don't see that latency as a problem, really. That's my take on it. Secondly, what about, there were some complaints or some concerns raised about the Bluetooth range. There are 3 different settings for the Bluetooth monitoring. You can go to the prime setting, which is the highest quality, but it has probably the least range. You have standard, and you have stable. On the prime setting, I was able to get about 15 meters away before I experienced the first dropout, but the audio quality was fantastic. On the stable setting, which is the lowest quality setting, so you take a hit in terms of audio quality a little bit, didn't get as much bass response, for example, but you could still tell if you had problems, in my experience. I was able to walk through my entire home, both stories, upper and lower. I had the Tascam down here in my lower story. I didn't get any dropouts at all, so it doesn't seem to change the latency, but it does seem to feel a lot more stable in terms of the distance you can get away from it. So I would say I was probably 30 meters away, and I didn't have any dropouts. Next question, what about audio quality and performance? Which recorder has the best preamps or the best sound? Well, go take a listen to those 3 different samples that I put on Google Drive with a link down below, and you can assess that for yourself. In my opinion, they're all fantastic when it comes to recording spoken word audio. I don't see a difference between them. Nothing of substance that I would worry about. So in other words, the differentiators between these recorders in my mind is more about the features than it is about the audio quality. Is there ultrasonic noise like there were on the original Portacapture recorders from Tascam? This is for people that are recording 192 kilohertz things for sound design, and then they downsample from there. And what I did is I recorded with my dummy XLR adapter into input number 1 with the recorder set to 192 kilohertz, 32-bit float. And what the dummy XLR connector does is it essentially places the load of a microphone on the preamplifier without a signal from a microphone. So it's just looking at the noise on the microphone preamplifier. And looking at the spectrogram here, it looks clean to me. So I think the answer to that question is no. If you want a different test, I don't have any microphones that really record much beyond 20 kilohertz, so I really don't know how to test that other than what we've done here. So hopefully that answers your question. Moving on to the next question. Are the headphone amplifiers noisy, or how noisy are they? When I say things like this, sometimes I think people take it a little out of context. Here's the upshot of the headphone amplifier here. It doesn't provide a ton of power. And what that means is that it's not going to drive high impedance headphones very well. If you're using 60 ohm or lower impedance headphones, which is most earbuds, it's most kind of consumer grade, even some professional grade headphones here, the Beyerdynamic DT700 Pro X, I think these are 58 ohm. It'll be fine, no problem. You can monitor with confidence on these headphone amplifiers. All I'm saying that is if you try to use your audiophile headphones with a 300 ohm or 350 ohm impedance, you're going to have to max out the volume on the headphone amplifier, and you're going to get some hiss. So don't use your audiophile headphones, and you're going to be fine. They did that. I think they have a relatively low total power in the headphone amp to maintain or to kind of manage battery use when you're out in the field. It's a field recorder, so that's my take on that. All right, there are some other unrelated questions. Number 1, will there be a Zoom F6 refresh or a new Zoom model coming soon? I have no idea. Second most common unrelated question, can you review the new Deity field recorder, the PR6? Sure, but it's not actually shipping, so I can't review it anytime soon. And Deity has a tendency to announce things way in advance at trade shows, and then it takes a while before they're actually shipping. I will say this, I will not review anything until it's actually in production. I'm not going to review any engineering early copies anymore. That's fraught with too many challenges, and I really appreciate it. By the way, TASCAM did send me an engineering preview of the FR-AV4 ahead of time before they released it, and I was under embargo, so I couldn't talk about it then. But we agreed that I would not do a review until they had a production copy shipping. So this is the actual production copy that we're talking about here. So hopefully that answers your questions. If you have any other questions, go ahead and leave them down below. I probably need to get this shipped back to TASCAM, but we'll answer anything I can. Get out there and make some great sound, and we'll talk to you again soon.